The Kenya plane crash, what they're not telling you. On October 28th, 2025, a routine flight departed from Nairobi, Kenya. The passengers on board represented a cross-section of society: families, business travelers, students, and individuals on personal journeys. The morning sky was calm, the air crisp. Airport staff moved with practiced efficiency as travelers boarded the plane. Luggage was loaded, pilots conducted their pre-flight checks, and ground crew prepared for takeoff. The aircraft itself had a history of safe operations, and nothing about the flight suggested impending disaster. Yet, as the plane lifted gracefully into the sky, unseen forces were already shaping the fate of everyone on board. The calm before the flight. On October 28, 2025, the morning in Nairobi, Kenya, began like any other. Passengers arrived at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, unaware that their journey would soon end in tragedy. The airport buzzed with routine activity, luggage being loaded, staff directing passengers, pilots conducting meticulous pre-flight checks. For the travelers, this was just another flight. Families waved goodbye, business travelers checked their itineraries, and students carried backpacks filled with books and plans for the future. The aircraft itself was a modern commercial jet, maintained according to regulatory standards. Its history showed a record of safe flights, with no major incidents in recent years. Even the crew, seasoned and experienced, had no indication that the flight would end catastrophically. As the plane taxied to the runway, the sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tarmac. Passengers settled into their seats. Some read quietly, others checked their phones, and a few stared out of the windows, watching the city below. The plane lifted off smoothly, climbing toward the clouds. To the passengers, it was an ordinary morning. To the world, it was the beginning of a chain of events that would leave nations in shock and investigators scrambling for answers. Even before the first signs of trouble, there were subtle indicators that this flight was different. Air traffic control noted minor deviations in speed and course, insignificant at the time, but later seen as part of a larger puzzle. Families said their goodbyes, not knowing that these moments would become their last memories with loved ones. The atmosphere on the plane was calm, almost serene, yet the calmness was deceptive. In these early minutes, the ordinary became extraordinary. Every procedure, every system check, every passenger boarding silently contributed to a sequence of events that no one could have predicted. The plane, a symbol of human innovation and trust, soared into the sky. And as it disappeared into the clouds above Nairobi, no one could know how swiftly the ordinary flight would transform into a tragedy that would capture global attention. Minutes after takeoff, the flight climbed steadily into the morning sky. The passengers, unaware of what was about to happen, carried on with their routines, some reading, some gazing out the window, some quietly resting. Then, something unusual occurred. Radar data, monitored by air traffic control, indicated a sudden drop in altitude and a slight deviation from the flight path. At first, controllers assumed it was a minor technical adjustment. But within moments, all communication with the aircraft was lost. Eyewitnesses on the ground began to report what they saw. Some described a plane flying unusually low over the hills, its wings tilting unnaturally. Others spoke of hearing a loud, concussive sound, an explosion that echoed across the landscape. A few captured distant flashes in the sky, fleeting and almost surreal. Rescue teams were dispatched immediately, but the crash site was located in a remote, densely forested region of central Kenya. Rough terrain and limited access slowed initial efforts, leaving first responders racing against time. Every minute mattered. Local residents who arrived on the scene spoke of chaos and confusion. They described twisted fragments of metal scattered across the hillsides, smoke rising in plumes, and a profound sense of shock as they confronted the reality of what had happened. For investigators, these initial reports were both critical and puzzling. Why had a routine flight, operating under normal conditions, ended so abruptly? No weather anomalies were present, and the aircraft had a reliable maintenance record. Speculation began almost immediately. Some questioned whether mechanical failure could happen this fast. Others considered the possibility of human error or even unknown factors affecting the flight. Meanwhile, families of the passengers waited anxiously, unaware of the magnitude of the disaster. Every passing minute stretched their fear, as news of the plane's disappearance began to circulate. The final moments of the flight, though brief, hold the key to understanding what happened. Every sudden movement, every warning light, every silent second in the cockpit may contain clues that investigators would later piece together, bit by bit, to uncover the truth behind this tragedy. The ordinary flight had become a nightmare, and the world was about to witness the full extent of the disaster on October 28, 2025. Investigating the causes. As news of the crash spread, aviation authorities in Kenya and around the world began a meticulous investigation. At the heart of the inquiry was a simple, yet complex question. Why did this plane, operating under routine conditions, suddenly disappear from radar? Investigators first examined environmental factors. Weather reports from October 28, 2025, indicated calm skies over Nairobi and the surrounding regions. There were no storms, no sudden wind shear, no lightning strikes. Nothing in the atmosphere to explain a crash of this magnitude. Mechanical failure became the next focus. Experts reviewed the aircraft's maintenance logs, previous repairs, and technical reports. The plane had passed all scheduled inspections, its engines and instruments appearing in working order. Yet, history shows that even well-maintained planes can experience unforeseen malfunctions. A minor component failure can cascade into a catastrophic chain reaction at high altitudes. Human error was also considered. Pilots are highly trained professionals, yet in moments of extreme pressure or unexpected events, even experience may not prevent disaster. Investigators looked at flight data, pilot schedules, and previous flight patterns, searching for signs of fatigue, misjudgment, or miscommunication. At the same time, radar recordings and air traffic communications were analyzed. Controllers confirmed that the flight's altitude and trajectory were normal until the sudden drop and disappearance. No distress signals were sent, leaving experts wondering what occurred in the cockpit during those final seconds. Similar incidents in the region have exposed systemic weaknesses. Limited air traffic monitoring, gaps in pilot training programs, and rare, undetected mechanical anomalies can combine in ways that turn a routine flight into a tragedy. As the investigation progressed, theories began to emerge. Some analysts suggested a rapid technical failure. Engines, instruments, or navigation systems malfunctioning simultaneously. Others considered less conventional possibilities, sudden structural failure, undetected hazards, or an unexpected sequence of events that left the crew unable to respond. For families, each theory raised anxiety. For investigators, each clue offered hope. Every recovered piece of debris, every fragment of communication, every technical reading could bring clarity to the questions that still lingered over October 28, 2025. The Kenya plane crash was not just an isolated event. It was a puzzle composed of technical details, human decisions, and environmental factors, all converging in a way that no one could have anticipated. The search for answers had begun, and the world watched as authorities pieced together the mystery, striving to uncover the truth hidden in the final moments of the flight. Black box and data mysteries. In the aftermath of the crash, attention turned to the plane's most critical investigative tools, the black boxes. These devices, the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, are designed to survive even the most catastrophic accidents. They hold the truth of the final moments, capturing engine performance, flight controls, instrument readings, and every sound in the cockpit. Recovery teams carefully scoured the rugged terrain of central Kenya, navigating debris and challenging conditions. When the black boxes were finally retrieved, investigators faced the painstaking task of extracting and analyzing their contents. Cockpit voice recordings revealed the human side of the disaster. The voices of pilots, radio communications, and alarms that may have sounded during those critical minutes. Flight data provided a second layer of evidence, showing speed, altitude, heading, and mechanical performance, second by second. Early analysis revealed puzzling anomalies. Some readings suggested sudden, unexplainable drops in altitude and engine performance. Certain instrument readings did not align with expected behavior, leaving investigators questioning whether a technical malfunction had occurred or if other factors had intervened. Even minor discrepancies were critical. At high speeds and altitudes, a single misreading or delayed response can cascade into a catastrophic event. Investigators worked to synchronize data, reconstruct the timeline, and uncover every hidden detail of the flight's last moments. At the same time, the public waited. Families sought answers, journalists pressed for information, and aviation authorities remained cautious in their statements. The black boxes held the promise of clarity, yet they also posed new questions. Why did certain alarms go unnoticed? Why were no distress calls recorded? Analysts compared the data with historical crash patterns, searching for precedents. Was this an isolated technical failure, or part of a larger pattern of risks in aviation operations? The answers, slowly emerging from the black boxes, would shape the investigation for months to come. In these small, encoded devices lay the ultimate story of October 28, 2025, a story of technology, human decision-making, and the invisible forces that brought a routine flight to a tragic end. Aviation safety and hidden factors. As investigators continued analyzing the black boxes and flight data, attention turned to a broader question. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Aviation safety is built on layers of checks and regulations. Maintenance schedules, pilot training, aircraft inspections, and air traffic monitoring. Each layer is designed to prevent accidents, but even the smallest lapse can have devastating consequences. The airline involved had passed all recent inspections and had no major safety violations on record. However, experts note that routine inspections cannot catch every potential issue. Mechanical components, especially those under constant stress, can fail in unpredictable ways. Maintenance logs became a focal point of the investigation. Investigators scrutinized engine records, system replacements, and repair histories. Every missed detail, every delayed inspection, could provide insight into what went wrong. Pilot training and crew experience were also examined. Even highly trained crews face challenges when confronted with sudden emergencies. Human reaction times, decision-making under pressure, and access to accurate information all factor into survival outcomes. Historical context offers further perspective. Similar accidents around the world have revealed systemic weaknesses in aviation oversight. Minor procedural lapses, gaps in regulatory enforcement, or miscommunication between ground and air crews. In each case, the public often sees only the final outcome, not the invisible chain of errors leading to disaster. Investigators also considered the design and reliability of the aircraft itself. Modern airplanes are marvels of engineering, yet they operate in complex, high-pressure environments. Systems must function in perfect harmony, and any anomaly, however small, can escalate rapidly. The Kenya plane crash highlights the delicate balance in aviation safety. Even when regulations are followed and crews are experienced, the unexpected can still occur. It serves as a reminder that behind every flight are unseen risks, intricate machinery, and human judgment, all of which can converge in moments of catastrophe. As investigators dug deeper, the interplay of maintenance, training, mechanical performance, and environmental factors painted a picture of how a seemingly routine flight ended in disaster. Each factor alone may not have been enough, but together, they created a scenario no one could have anticipated. Eyewitness accounts and local reactions. As news of the crash spread, local residents in central Kenya became some of the first witnesses to the aftermath. Villagers reported hearing a loud, concussive sound, followed by a distant, fiery flash in the sky. Some rushed toward the source, hoping to help, only to be confronted by twisted metal, scattered luggage, and flames rising from the hillside. Eyewitnesses described the chaos vividly. One resident recalled seeing fragments of the plane falling like a storm of fire and debris. Another spoke of the eerie silence that followed, the kind that makes people stop and question what they just experienced. Emergency services arrived quickly, but the terrain posed significant challenges. Rescue teams navigated steep hills, dense foliage, and uneven ground, often carrying equipment by hand to reach the wreckage. Helicopters hovered above, their rotors stirring dust and smoke as investigators documented the scene. Local communities played a vital role. Residents guided responders through narrow paths, helped transport debris, and provided first aid to any survivors they could reach. Their first-hand accounts became crucial for reconstructing the sequence of events, offering details that radar data and technical reports could not capture. Families of passengers were glued to their phones and televisions, desperate for news. Every incoming report, whether official or from social media, brought hope and fear in equal measure. Misinformation spread quickly, forcing authorities to clarify details, while journalists worked to piece together reliable accounts. Even amidst the devastation, moments of humanity emerged. Strangers offered comfort to grieving families. Local volunteers provided water and blankets to rescue teams, and communities united in shock and sorrow. Eyewitness testimonies, however, were not always consistent. Some described the plane as breaking apart mid-air, while others reported hearing multiple explosions. These differences complicated the investigation, but also painted a fuller, more complex picture of the crash. For investigators, eyewitness accounts were invaluable. They provided context to the technical data, revealed the scale of the disaster, and highlighted the human cost of a single moment in the sky. The Kenya plane crash on October 28, 2025, was no longer just a series of technical failures. It was a deeply human tragedy, a convergence of technology, environment, and lives forever altered. Global attention and political implications. News of the Kenya plane crash spread quickly, capturing attention not only in Kenya but across the world. Major international news outlets reported the incident, highlighting the sudden disappearance of the flight and the ongoing rescue efforts. Governments monitored the situation closely, offering condolences while coordinating with Kenyan authorities to support the investigation. Airlines, aviation regulators, and global organizations expressed concern. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, emphasized the importance of safety protocols, while aviation experts around the world analyzed the incident for patterns and lessons. Politically, the crash had multiple implications. Authorities needed to manage the public response carefully, balancing transparency with sensitivity to the victims' families. Statements were issued cautiously, emphasizing ongoing investigations while avoiding speculation. Insurance companies, airline operators, and international stakeholders also observed the developments closely. The financial and reputational stakes were high, as accidents of this magnitude could affect airline operations, stock markets, and global aviation policies. Media coverage shaped public perception. Images of the crash site, interviews with eyewitnesses, and breaking news reports created a sense of urgency and concern. Social media amplified these effects, spreading both verified updates and rumors, making the role of accurate reporting more critical than ever. This incident also prompted global reflection on aviation safety. Even with advanced technology and strict regulations, the risks of air travel, however rare, remain ever present. The Kenya plane crash became a case study in crisis management, aviation oversight, and the global ripple effects of a single tragic event. In essence, the disaster highlighted not only the fragility of human life, but also the interconnectedness of the modern world. A tragedy in Kenya resonated internationally, reminding everyone that no region is isolated and no flight is exempt from scrutiny. The eyes of the world were on Kenya, as authorities, experts, and citizens sought to understand the cause, the consequences, and the lessons that must be learned. Search and recovery efforts. Following the crash, rescue and recovery teams faced one of the most challenging operations in Kenya's recent history. The crash site was located in a remote, rugged region, far from roads and emergency infrastructure. Steep hills, dense forest, and scattered debris made access difficult. Helicopters and drones were deployed to survey the area, capturing aerial images to guide teams on the ground. Ground crews moved cautiously, navigating unstable terrain littered with wreckage. Each fragment of metal, piece of luggage, and personal belonging was documented meticulously. Investigators treated the debris as a map, each piece providing clues to the plane's final trajectory and the sequence of the crash. Rescue teams worked tirelessly, often for hours at a time. Local residents joined efforts, guiding teams through narrow paths and assisting with basic logistics. Their knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable in reaching parts of the crash site otherwise inaccessible. The black boxes containing flight data and cockpit voice recordings were prioritized. Once recovered, these devices became the cornerstone of the investigation, offering insight into the mechanical, environmental, and human factors involved. Every recovered item told a story. Seat fragments indicated the force of impact, twisted metal revealed structural failures, and scattered belongings humanized the tragedy, reminding investigators that each piece represented a life lost. Challenges were constant. Smoke, dust, and the smell of burning fuel complicated operations. Safety was a concern for rescuers themselves, as unstable wreckage and sharp debris posed real dangers. Despite the difficulties, progress was made. Investigators pieced together the wreckage, mapping out the final moments of the flight. Each day brought new discoveries, yet each discovery also raised further questions. The recovery process highlighted the complexity of aviation disasters. It is not only a technical investigation, but also a deeply human one, a race against time to recover evidence, honor the victims, and understand the forces that led to the tragedy on October 28, 2025. As the search continued, authorities emphasized the importance of patience and precision. Every recovered fragment, every data reading, and every witness account would play a role in revealing the truth behind the Kenya plane crash. The dark truth. Even as the recovery efforts continued and the black boxes were analyzed, uncertainty remained. The Kenya plane crash was not a simple story of technical failure or pilot error. It was a complex convergence of human, mechanical, and environmental factors, a sequence of events that, combined, led to disaster. Investigators asked critical questions. Why did the plane lose contact so abruptly? Were there hidden mechanical failures that went undetected? Could human decision-making, environmental conditions, or even systemic weaknesses in aviation safety have played a role? The answers were elusive. Each recovered fragment, each data reading, and each eyewitness account offered only part of the story. Yet together, they formed a puzzle that hinted at both the fragility and resilience of modern aviation systems. The crash also highlighted broader truths about the risks we accept every day. Air travel is often taken for granted, yet it depends on invisible networks of technology, regulations, and human judgment. When one element fails, the consequences can be catastrophic. Families of the victims faced unimaginable grief. For them, the investigation was not just about understanding what happened, but about finding closure in a world that had changed in a single devastating moment. The media and global observers continue to scrutinize every update. Social media, while a source of immediate information, also spread speculation and rumors, complicating the narrative. This duality, the hunger for knowledge and the risk of misinformation, is part of the modern reality of disaster reporting. The Kenya plane crash serves as a reminder that not all answers are immediate and not all truths are fully revealed. Some questions may never be completely answered, but each step of the investigation brings humanity closer to understanding the forces that shape our lives and the world around us. In the end, the dark truth is both stark and humbling. We rely on complex systems every day, systems that are vulnerable, fallible, and at times fragile. The Kenya plane crash on October 28, 2025, is a testament to that reality, a story of technology, human life, and the unknown factors that can alter everything in an instant. Even as authorities continue their work, one question remains: what really happened in those final minutes? And in seeking the answer, we confront the limits of our knowledge, the vulnerabilities we live with, and the urgent need to understand the unseen forces at play.